Hello, another video. Today I will make a video. PVR point view read it from novel I read it. Okay, so right now I will continue the read it novel because the last video I watched chapter 2 from the Great Gatsby. So right now I will read it chapter 3 and the pages as long 30 pages. So I think it's more longer than before, but not more longer with the first video. But let's see. I don't know. And yeah, I think I'm feeling good today, and look like the the woman with the cute thing. Even I don't know, sometimes I feel shy also with my cut here like this because I'm look like cage, right? So I think I'm not deserve for that, but it's okay. It is just for me, right? Just me see my face like that. So yeah, it's okay. Still cute. Even not cute, but I believe I cute. I can blame and I can be branding myself cute, not beautiful, because the beautiful is my fate. Oh, amen. All right, let's go. Let's, because I'm enthusiastic to read it because yeah, it's a good story. I love that actually. It's remember me from the belly of Disney movie and with my relay also. I think, but I think not exactly same. But let's see. Let's read it with me. Chapter 3. There was music from my neighbor house through the summer night. In his blue garden, man and the girl came and went like man among the whispering and the campaigns and the star. At the high tide in the afternoon, I watched his guest leaving from the tower of his raft, or taking the sun on the hood and of his beach, while his two motor boats slid the waters of the sound drawing accupellants over cataracts of foam. On weekends, his Rolls Royce became an omnibus bearing parties to and from the city between 9 in the morning and long past midnight, while his station wagons scamper like a brisk yellow packed to meet all trains, and one on Mondays, 8 servant, including an extra garden toilet all day with the mops and scrubbing brushes and hammers and garden shears repairing and the ravage of the night before. Every Friday, 5 crates of orange and lemons arrive from a freighter in the New York. Every Monday, the same orange and lemon left his back door in the pyramid of pulpless hopes. There was a machine in the kitchen which could be extract the juice of 200 orange in a half hour, and the little button was pressed 200 times by Poltle tongue. At least once a fortnight a crop of caterers came down with several hundred feet of canvas and enough color light to make Christmas tree Gatsby enormous garden. On buffet tables garnished with a glistening horse diffure, spices baked hams crowded against, salad of harlequin, design and pastry pigs on turkey bewitched to dark gold. In the man of the bar with the real brass rail was set up and stocked with the kins and gingers, and with cordials so long forgotten that most of his female gays were too young and to know one more another. By 7 o'clock our orchestra arrived, no tin 5 pieces, a fair but full plateful of oboe and trombones and saxophone and viols and cornet and piccolos, and now loud and mic drum, the last simmer have come in and from the beach now and are dressing upstairs, and the Charcoal, New York, are parked five deep in the drive, and already the halls and balloons and verandas are gaudy with the primary colors, and hair shown in strange new ways, and Shelbian and the dreams of castle, and the bar is in full swing and floating around in cocktail permeate the garden outside until the air is alive with the chatter and the laughter and causal innuendo and introduction forgotten on the spot and to a steak meeting between women who never knew each other's name. The light grew brighter as the earth lodged away from the sun, and now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music, and the opera of voices pitches a key higher, louder is easier minute by minute, spilled with the prodigality without and cheerful word. The group changed more swiftly, swelled with the new arrival, dissolved and from the same breed. Already they are wondrous confident girls who with her, and there among the southern and more stable became for a sharp, joyous moment and center of group, and then excited with the drum glide on the through the sea chains of faces and voices and color under the constantly changing light. Suddenly on these gypsies in trembling opal seizes a cocktail out of the air. Dumb is down for courage, and moving her hands like Frisco, dances out alone on the canvas platform. A momentary hush, the orchestra leader varies his rhythm obligating for her, and there's a burst of chatter as the Erenemus new goes around that see till the grey understudy from the fall is the party has begun. I believe that on the first night I went to Gatsby House, I was the one of the few just guests who had actually been invited. People were not invited that when were they got into automobile which is bore them out Long Island and showed it in that up Gatsby door. Once there they were introduced by somebody who knew Gatsby, and after that conducted themselves according to the rules of behavior associated with amusement park. Sometimes they came and went without having met Gatsby at all, came for the party with the simplicity of her that was its own ticket of admission. I had been actually invited a caviar in a uniform or Robin's Eggs Blue Cruises. My lawn early Saturday morning with the surprisingly formal note from his employer. The honor would be entirely Gatsby, it said. If I would attend his little party that night, he had been seen several times and had intended to call on me long before, but a peculiar combination of circumstances had printed it, signed J. Gatsby in majestic hand. Dressed up in the white flannels, I went over to his own a little after 7 and wandered around, rather ill at ease amongst worlds and eddies of people I didn't know. Through here and there was a face I had noticed on the commuting train. It was immediately struck by the number of young Englishmen dotted about, all well dressed, all looking a little hungry, and all taking in the low, earnest voices the solid and prosperous American. I was sure that they were selling something, bond or insurance or automobiles. They were at least agonizingly aware of the easy money in the vicinity and convinced that it was there for few funds in the right key. As soon as arrived, I made a attempt to find my host, but the 2 or 3 people of whom I asked his whereabouts stared at me such as an amazed way, and denied so vehemently any knowledge of his movement that I slunk off in the direction of the cocktail table, the only place in the garden where a single man could linger without looking purpose and alone. I was on my way to get roaring drunk from sheer embarrassment when Jordan Baker came out of the house and stood at the head of the marble steps, leaning a little backward and looking with the confused interest down into the garden. Welcome or not, I found it necessary to attack myself to someone before I should begin to address cordial remark to the passerby. Hello, I wrote, advancing toward her. My voice seems unnaturally loud across the garden. I thought you might be here, she responded absently as I came up. I remember you live next door to. She held my hand impersonally as a promise that she take care of me in a minute, and gave her two girls in twin yellow dress who stopped at the foot of the step. Hello, they cried together. Sorry, you didn't win. That was for the golf tournament she had lost in its final the week before. You don't know who we are, said one the girl in the yellow, but we met you here but a moment ago. You dyed your hair since then, remarked Jordan, and I stared, but the girls have moved casually on. Her remark was addressed to the perimeter moon, produced like the supper, no bowed out of Kedar basket, with Jordan's slender golden arm resting in the mine. We scanned the step and shouted about the garland. A tray of cocktail floated us through the twilight, and we sat down at table with the two girls in yellow and three men, each one introduced to us as Mr. Mumble. Do you come to this party often? Inquired Jordan of the girl beside her. The last one, the one I met you at, answered the girl in a loud, confident voice. She turned to her companion. Wasn't it for you, Lucille? It was for Lucille. I like to come, Lucille said. I never care what I do, so I always have a good time. When I was here last, Storm made crown on the chair, and he asked me my name and address inside a week. I got packaged from Croyer with a new evening gown into it. Did you keep it? Asked Jordan. Sure I did. I was going to wear it tonight. But it was too big in the box and had to be altered. It was Gaza blue with lavender beads, $265. There's something funny about fellow that's all the thing like that, said the other girl eagerly. He doesn't mean any trouble with anybody. Who doesn't? I inquired. Gatsby. Somebody told me. The two girls and Jordan leaned together confidently. Somebody told me they thought he killed a man once. A thrill passed over all of us. The three Mr. Mumble bent forward and listened eagerly. I don't think it's so much that, argued Lucille skeptically. It's more that he was German spy during the war. One of the men nodded in confirmation. I heard that from a man who knew all about him, grew up with him in Germany. He assured us positively. Oh no, said the first girl. It couldn't be that because we was in the American army during the war. As our credulity switched back to her leaning forward with enthusiasm, you look at him sometimes when he thinks nobody looking at him. I'll be killed a man. She narrowed her eyes and shivered. Lucille shivered. We all turned and looked around for Gatsby. It was testimony to romantic speculation. He inspired, and there were whispers about him from those who found little that it was necessary to whisper about in this world. The first supper. There would be another midnight, and now being served, and Jordan invited me to join her own party. We were separate around a table on the other side on the garden. There were three married couples and Jordan escort, a persistent undergraduate given to feeling innuendo, and obviously under the impression that sooner or later Jordan was going to yield him up or person to greater or lesser degree. Instead of rambling, this party had preserved a dignified homogeneity and assumed to itself the function of representing the state nobility of the countryside, is a condescending to basic and carefully on guard against its spectroscopic gravity. Let's get out. We appeared Jordan after a show was full and in appropriate half hour. This is much too polite for me. We get up and she explained that we were going to find the host. I had never met him, she said, and was making me uneasy. The undergraduate nodded in cynical melancholy way. The bar where we glanced for was crowded, but Gatsby was not there. She couldn't find him from the top of the step. He wasn't on the veranda. On chance, we tried an important looking door and walked into the high Gothic library paneled with carved oak, a carved English oak, and probably transported complete from some ruin overseas. A stout middle-aged man with the enormous old-eye spectacles was sitting somewhat drunk on the edges of great table, staring with unsteady concentration at the shelves of books. As we centered, he wheeled excitedly around and examined Jordan from head to foot. "What do you think?" he demanded impetuously. "About what?" He waved his hand toward the bookshelves. "About that. As a matter of fact, you needed butter to secretin I ascertain they real the books." He nodded. "Absolutely real. Have pages and everything. I thought they be a nice, durable cardboard. Master of fact, they're absolutely real pages, and here, let me show you." Taking our skepticism for granted, he rushed to the bookcases and returned with the following one of the stoddard lecture. "See," he cried triumphantly, "it's a bona fide piece of printed matter. It fooled me. This a fella a regular Velasco. It is Trump. That's thoroughness. What realism knew when to stop to. Didn't cut the pages, but what do you want? What do you expect?" Snatches the book from me and replaced it hastily on his shelf, muttering that if one break was removed, the whole library was liable to collapse. "Who brought you?" he demanded. "Or did you just come?" "I was brought. Most people were bought." Jordan looked at me lightly, cheerfully, without answering. "I was brought by a woman named Rousseau," he continued. "Mr. Claude Rousseau. Do you know her? I met her somewhere last night. I've been drunk for about a week now, and I thought it might sober me up to sit in the library." "Has it?" "A little bit, I think. I can't tell yet. I've only been here an hour. Did I tell you about the books?" "They are real. They are." "You told us." We shook hands with him gravely and went back outdoor. There was dancing now, canvas in the garden, old men pushing young girl backward in eternal graceless circle, superior couples holding up each other, tortuously fashionable, and keeping in the corner, and a great number of single girls dancing individualistically or relieving or orchestra. For a moment of burden of the banjo of the traps by midnight, the hilarity and increase. A celebrated tenor had sung in Italian, and notorious contralto had sung in the jazz, and between the number of people were doing stand all over the garden while happy, vacuous bursts of laughter rose toward and the summer sky. A pair of stake twins would turn out to the girl in the yellow. Did the baby act in costume? And campaign were served in the glasses bigger than finger bowl. The moon had risen higher and floating in the sun was a triangle of silver scales, trembling a little to stiff, tiny drip of the banjos of the lawn. I was still with the Jordan Baker. We were sitting at the table with the man about my ages and Rob the little girl, who gave me even the slightest provocation to uncontrollable laughter. I was enjoying myself now. I had taken two finger bows of campaign the scan of changes before my eyes into something significant, elemental, and profound. At lull in the entertainment, the man looked at me and smiled. Your face is familiar, he said politely. Weren't you in the third division during the war? Why, yes, I was the machine gun battalion. I was the 7th Infantry until June 1918. I know I seen you somewhere before. We talked for a moment about some wet, gravy little villages in France. Evidently, he lived in the victory, for he told me that he had just bought hydroplane as I was going to try it out in the morning. Want to go with me? I'll sport just near the shore along the South time. Any time that suits you best is so on the tip of my tongue to ask his name when Jordan looked around and smiled. Having a gay time now, she inquired, much better. I turned again to my new acquaintance. This is unusual party for me. I even see the house. I live over there. I wave my hand and the invisible hedge in the distance, and this man Gatsby sent over his shoulder with an invitation. For a moment he looked at me as he failed to understand. I am Gatsby, he said suddenly. What? I exclaimed. Oh, I beg you pardon. I thought you knew. You're sport. I am afraid I'm not very good host. He smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smile with the quality of eternal reassurance that you may come across for 5 times in the life. It face or seem to face the whole external world for an instant and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor and understood you just so far as you wanted to be understood, believe you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assure you that it had precisely the impression of you that at your best. And you hope to convey precisely at the point it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck, a year or two over 30, just elaborate for mentality of speech just missed being absurd sometime before he introduced himself. I got a strong impression that he was speaking his word with a care. Almost at the moment when Mr. Gatsby identified himself, a butler hurried toward him with the information that Chicago was calling him on the right. He excused himself with a small bow that included each of his turn. If you want anything, just ask for it, all sport. He argued me, excuse me, I will rejoin you later. When he was gone, I turned immediately to Jordan, constrained to assure her on my surprise. I had expected that Mr. Guthrie would be florid and corpulent person in his middle years. Who is he? I demanded. Do you know? He's just a man named Gatsby. Where is he from? I mean, and what does he do? Now you're started to be off subject, she answered with the um one smile. Well, he told me when he was Oxford man, a dim background started to take shape behind him, but in her next remark it faded away. However, I don't believe it. Why not? I don't know. She insisted. I just don't think he went there. Something in her tone reminded me of the other girls. I think he killed me, and that the effect of stimulating my curiosity, I would accept it without question. The information that Gatsby sprang from the swamps of Louisiana or from the Lower East Side of New York that was compressible, but young men didn't, at least in my provincial inexperience. I believe they didn't drift coolly out of now where, and buy a palace on Long Island Sounds. And now, he gives lark parties, said Jordan, changing the subject with an urban distaste for the concert. And I like lark party, they are so intimate. At small party there isn't any privacy. There was boom as a boom drum, and voices of the orchestra leader ring suddenly above the equalia of the garden. Ladies and gentlemen, he cried at the request of Mr. Gatsby. We are going to play for you, Mr. Flatmere, toast of latest work, which is attracted to so much attention at Carnegie Hall last May. If you read the paper, you know that was a big sensation. He smiled with jovial condescension and added, some sensation where even everybody laughed. The pieces is known, he concluded loosely, as a Flatmere Dostoevsky's History of the World. The nature of Mr. Tolstoy's composition included me, because just as it began, my eyes fell on the Gatsby standing alone on the marble step and looking from one group to another with approving eyes. His tan skin was drawn attractively tight on his face, and his short hair looked as though it were trimmed every day. I could see nothing sinister about him. I wondered if the fact that he was not drinking helped to set him off from his guess. From it seems to me he grew more correct as the fraternal hilarity increased. When the jazz history of the world was over, girls were putting their heads on the man's shoulder in Poppy's convivial way. Girls were swanning backward, playfully into men's arms, even in the group, knowing that someone would arrest their fall, but no one swanned backward on Gatsby, and no Franz Bob touched Gatsby's shoulder, and no singing quartet were from with the Gatsby head on the link. I beg your pardon. Gatsby's brother was suddenly standing beside it. Miss Baker, he inquired, I beg your pardon, but Mr. Gatsby, would you like to speak to you alone with me? She exclaimed in surprise. Yes, madam. She got up slowly, raising her eyebrow at me in astonishment, and followed the butler toward the house. I noticed that she wore an evening dress, all her dress like sport clothes. There was a jauntiness about her movement, as if she had first learned to walk even golf course on clean, crisp morning. I was alone and it was almost 2. For some time, confused and intriguing sounds had issued from the long, many window room which overhung the terrace, eluding Jordan undergraduate who was engaged in obstacle conversation with 2 chorus girls and 2 implored me to join him. I went inside. The large room was full of people. One of the girls in the yellow was playing the piano, and beside her stood a tall, red-haired young lady from the famous colors engaged in the song. She had drunk a quantity of champagne, and during course of her song she had decided in wood that everything was very, very sad. She was not only singing, she was sleeping too. Whenever there was pause in the song, she filled with the gasping, broken sobs and then took up the lyric again in quavering soprano. The tears coursed down her cheeks, not fully, however, for when they came into the contact with the heavily beaded eyelashes, the assumption and ink color, and pursued the rest of their way in the slow back rivulets of former suggestion, was made it sing the notes on her face, where even she threw up her hand, sank into the chair, and went off into deep vinous sleep. She had a flight with a man who said he's her husband, explaining a girl at my elbow. I looked around. Most of the remaining women were now having fight with men said to be their husband. Even Jordan party, and departed from SA, where ran asunder by dissension. One of the men was talking with curious intensity to young actress and his wife. After attempting to lounge at the situation in dignity and indifference, broke down entirely and restored to flying attack. An interval she appeared suddenly at his side, his an angry diamond, and he said, "You promised," into his ear. The reluctance to go home was not confident to wayward man. The, the whole was the prison occupied by two deliberately sober men and their highly ingredient wives, and the wives were sympathizing with each other in slightly raised voices. Whenever he says, "I'm having a good time," he wants to go home. Never heard anything so selfish in my life. We're always the first one to leave. So are we. "Well, we are almost the last tonight," said one of the men sleepily. "The orchestra left hall an hour ago." In spite of the wife's agreement that such a melancholy was beyond credibility, this would end up in a short struggle, and both wives were left king into the night. As I waited for my weight in the hall, the door of the library opened up and Jordan Barker Gatsby came out together. He was saying some last word to her, but eagerness in his manner tightened abruptly into formality as several people approached him to say goodbye. Jordan party were calling impatiently to her from the porch, but she sliding for the moment to take him. "I've just heard the most amazing thing," she whispered. "How long we're in there?" "Why, about an hour." "It was simply amazing," she repeated abstractly, "but I swore I wouldn't tell it there. I am tantalizing you." She yawned gracefully in my face. "Please, come and see me. Pawn book under the name of Mrs. Signora Howard, my aunt." She was hurrying off as she told her brown, and he waved a jaunty salute as he melted into her party at the door, rather ashamed that on my first appearance I had stayed so late. I joined the last of Gatsby guests, who were clustered around him. I want to explain that I haunted him early in the evening to apologize for not having known him in the garden. "Don't mention it." He enjoyed me eagerly. "Don't give it another touch, old sport." The familiar expression held no more familiarity than the hand which reassuringly brushed my shoulder. "And don't forget we're going up in the hydroplane tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock." Then the butter behind his shoulder. "Philadelphia wants you on the phone, sir." "All right, in a minute. Tell them I'll be right there. Good night, good night, good night." He smiled, and suddenly there seems to be pleasant significance in having been among the last to go, as he had desired in all the time. "Good night, old sport, good night." But as I walked down the step, I saw that the evening was not quite over. 50 feet from the door, a dozen headlights illuminated a bizarre and tumultuous scene. In the ditch beside the road, right side up but faintly shorn of one wheel, rested a new couple which just had left Gatsby Drive not 2 minutes before. The sharp just of a wall accounted for the detachment of the wheel, which was now getting considerable attention from half-dozen carriage covers. However, as they had left the car blocking the road, a harsh, discordant din from jaws in the rear had been audible for some time, and aided to the already violent confusion of the scan. A man in a long duster has dismounted from the ridge, and now stood in the middle of the road, looking from the car to the tire and from the tire and the observers in the pleasant vital way. "See," he explained, "it went in the ditch." The fact was infinitely astonishing to him, and I recognized First, the unusual quality of wonder, and then the man is what the plate patron Gatsby library. How it happened? He shrugged his shoulder. I know nothing whatever about mechanics, he said decisively. But now that it's happened, did you run into the wall? Don't ask me, said all eyes. He's a hints of the whole matter. I know very little about driving. Next to nothing. It happened, that's all I know. Well, if you are a poor driver, you ought to driving at the night, but I wasn't even trying, he explained indicationally. I was even trying. And if you has value in the pips dinner, do you want to commit suicide? You're lucky, it was just a wheel. A bad driver and not even trying. You don't understand, explained the criminal. I wasn't driving. There another man in the car. The shock that followed this declaration found voices incessant. Ah. As the door of the coach swung slowly open, the crowd, it was no crowd, stepped back involuntarily, and even the door had opened wide. There was a ghostly pause. Then, very gradually, a pale, dangling individual stepped out the right, pawing tentatively at the ground with the large, uncertain, dancing shoe. Blinded by the glare of the headlight and confused by the incessant groaning of the horn, the operations stood swaying for a moment before he perceived the man in the duster. What's the matter? He inquired calmly. Did we run out of gas? Look, half a dozen fingers pointed at the amputated wheel. The stayed at the for a moment and then looked upward as though suspected that its head dropped from the sky. It came off. Someone explained it. He nodded. At the first I didn't notice. We did stop a pause, then taking a long breath and straightening his shoulder, he remarked his determined voices. Wonder, tell me where there's a gas line station. At least a dozen men. Some of them little Peter off. Then he was explained to him were no longer joined by any physical bone back out. He suggests after a moment put her in reverse, but the wheels off. He hesitated. No harm in trying, he said. The caterwauling horn and reached a crescendo and turned away and cut across the lawn toward a glazed back one. A widow's moon was shining over Gatsby House, making the night and surviving the lantern and the sun in his still glowing garden. A sudden emptiness seemed to blow no the windows and the great doors, endowing with complete isolation. And the figure out the house who stood on the porch his hand up in a formal gesture of farewell. Reading over what I have written so far, I see I have given the impression that the event of 3 nights several weeks apart were all that observed me. On the contrary, they were merely casual events in crowded summer, and until much later they observed me infinitely less than my personal appear. Most of time I worked in the early morning in the sun threw my shadow westward as I hurried down the white chasm of lower New York to the Publicity Trust. I knew the underclay and young bond salesman by their first name and lunched with them in the dark, crowded restaurant and little big sausages and mashed potato and coffee. I have a short affair with a girl who lived in the Jersey City, and I worked an accounting department, but her brother began throwing mean looks in my direction. So when she went on her vacation in July, I let it flow quiet away. I took dinner usually, yelled up for some reason, was the gloomiest event of my day, and then I would steer to the library and study investment and securities for a conscious hour. There were generally a few readers around, but they never came into the library, so it was a good place to work. After that, if my night was mellow, I strolled down Madison Avenue, past the whole Murray Hotel, and over 30th Street to the Peninsula Station. I began to like New York, the terracy adventures, feels of it and night and satisfaction that constant figure of man and woman machine give us to restless eye. I like it to walk up 50th Avenue and pick out romantic woman and the crowded and imagination that in a few minutes I was going to enter into their lives and no one will ever know or disapprove. Sometime in my mind, I follow them to their apartment and on the corner of Hidden Street, and they turn and smile back at me before they faded through door into warm darkness. And the enhances metropolitan too like I felt haunting loneliness sometimes and I feel in other poor young clerk who loitered from in windows wall waiting until it's time for solitary restaurant dinner. Correct a dust was the most poignant moment, night and life. Again, or 8 o'clock, when the dark lanes of the forest were lined up five deep with the throbbing taxi backbone of the street districts, I felt sinking in my heart. From leaned together in the taxis as they waited, and the voices sang, and there was laughter from unheard jokes, and lighted cigarette outline unintelligible gesture inside. Imagination Imagine that I too was hurrying toward gaiety and sharing their intimate excitement. I wish I them well. For a while I lost sight of Jordan Baker and then midsummer I found her again. At the first I was flattered to go place with her because she was a golf champion and everyone knew her name. Then it was something more. I wasn't actually in love, but I felt a sharp, tender curiosity. The bird haughty faces that she turned to the world concealed something. Most affection concealed something eventually even though they dawned in the beginning and the one day I found what it was. When we were on house party together up in the warming, she left a borrowed care out in the rain with the top down and then lay about it. And suddenly I remembered the story about her and had eluded me the night Daisy at the first big golf tournament. There was a row and that nearly reaches the newspaper the suggestion that she had moved her ball from a bad lie in the semi-final round. The thing approached the proportion of scandal, then died away. A caddy retracted his statement, and the only other witness admitted that he may have been mistaken. The incident and the name had remained together in my mind. Jordan Baker instinctively avoided clever Screwman, and now saw this was because he felt safer on the plane where any difference from code would be thought impossible. She was incredibly dishonest. She wasn't able to endure being at the disadvantage, and given this unwillingness, I suppose she had begun dealing in subterfuges when she was very young in order to keep the full, insolent smile turned to the water and yet satisfy the demand of her hard, chody body. It made no difference to me. Dishonesty in a woman is thing never blamed deeply. I was casually sorry and then I forgot it's one day some house party and we had curious. You are a rotten driver. I protested. Either you ought to be more careful or you ought to drive at all. I am careful. No, you're not. Well, other people are. She said lightly. What's that got to do with? They'll keep it out of my way. See instant. It's take two or make an accident. Suppose you meet somebody just as careless as yourself. I hope I never will, she answered. I hate the careless people. That's why I like you. Her gray sun shining a straight a hate, but see hate deliberate shifted our relation. And for a moment I thought I loved her, but I, slow thinking and full of interior rule that ache breaks all my desire. And I know the first I had to get myself definitely out that tangle back home. I've been writing letter once a week and seeing them. Love Nick. And all I could think of was how when that certain girl played tennis, a faint musical of perspiration appeared on her upper lip. Nevertheless, there was a vague understanding that had to be tactfully broken off before I was free. Everyone suspects himself at least one of the cardinal virtue in this mind. I am the one of the few honest people that I ever known. That's it. Alright. I just wanna highlight actually two sentences, especially to give the touch about sentence about at an ancient metropolitan to like I felt a haunting loneliness sometimes and felt in other poor young clerk who loitered in front window waiting until it was time for solitary restaurant dinner. You clerk is the dogs wasting the most brilliant moment of the night and the life. And then the next one is uh, a quote like this. I hope I hate careless people. That's why I like you. Right? It's really fun, but it's like love and hate. So uh, I highlight about this is about the woman and the man of the Gatsby. In here, the man even rich or good status is the woman. So yeah, each other feel loneliness even they are going to the public space like restaurant for dinner, but people just uh, walk around or just eat with other person, or when each other try to enjoy not enjoy eating, they just observe what is it, employer server for this serve of the eat, and just see in the window the people in the outside just walk around, and yeah, sometimes mostly with a couple. And the reason uh she love the man, or the woman love the man is the man is really careless, right? But actually as a person she really hate the careless characters, but they realize as he realized it's reason she really like him. So it's remember me with the song from Sabrina, Carpenter, Sabrina Carpenter, about uh, the reason she like the man is opposite he hated actually. So that's why in couple relationship actually love means hated, hated means love. And I remember from myself actually, yes, I still same with the woman. I really hated and angry when the man careless to me. But I don't know, I'm feel too I feel I like him too. So I don't know. That's why many people say the love is blind, but I agree with that because like the creator still love me even I have many sin and still savor my sin. So I don't know, my relationship will the same with the Gatsby, but let's enjoying this and I just wanna hope for the creator, not for the man. If the creator want him to me, so we are will pack together. But even we are, if the creator not permission for me for us, we can back again. So yeah, that's about love. It's really complicated but simple as the same like opposite love and hate it, but in real life in the fact it's really hard to understand it. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you. Bye bye.